Before I dive into the video, I just want to give a quick warning. Please be advised this game has a lot of flashing lights and colors which could be dangerous for those with epilepsy. There once was a, slim brown shroom who hid in a tiny back room. To give you a tip, you're sent on a trip, now watch as the colors go vroom. Hey guys, James here, and today I want to do a quick review on Everhood, an indie adventure RPG developed by two people, Chris Nordgren and Jordi Rocca. In this game, you embark on a wild journey as Red, a mysterious wooden doll who wakes up to find that their arm is missing. If I had to compare this game to other games, I think the most obvious comparison would be Undertale. It's a quirky RPG adventure with tons of twists and turns, and Everhood also has a unique take on combat, combining rhythm elements into a bullet hell style combat system. Without further ado, let's get into this review. So to go back to the whole Undertale comparison, I think if you played Undertale, you'll definitely see how clear the influence is, and honestly, Everhood isn't afraid of wearing its influences on its sleeve. The aesthetics, particularly the graphics and style, feels almost exactly the same. That is to say, maybe a bit crude, but oddly endearing. There are even some elements around determination which seem to be inspired by Undertale. Even so, Everhood takes the adventure and themes in a very different direction. Of course, one of the biggest differences and one of the most important aspects of the game is the combat system. Here, you fight in a rhythm game influenced bullet hell style system. However, I would call it more of a bullet hell game than a rhythm game because here, enemy attacks are sent based on the music and you need to dodge these attacks rather than hit them on the beat in any way. There's a delay between when the sound plays and when the projectile actually reaches you, so again, to me, I don't really think of the game as a rhythm game. Even so, there might still be some times where you might feel the same sense of flow that you get from a lot of rhythm games, and this will really make you feel in the zone as you dodge between the different missiles. These bullet hell battles will be the core of the gameplay as you go from area to area and face off against different characters. For the most part, the only moves you have are the ability to move left and right to dodge incoming projectiles, as well as a jump and jump roll to avoid attacks. Later on in the game, you also gain the ability to deflect moves in order to strike back. Fair warning though, the game is not easy at all, although this could of course depend on the difficulty you play on. In lower difficulties, you'll have quicker health regeneration and might even be able to take more hits to your health in general. Me personally, I played the game on hard difficulty, and there you're only able to take about 3 hits, but of course, your health can regenerate if you avoid attacks for long enough. For me, I did feel like some of the mid-game fights could have been harder and longer.
That's what she said!
Although, I'm not sure if that's just because I was improving at the game as I played, so the mid-game fights felt easier than earlier fights. I will say, there would be some times where I felt like I could just chill on one of the sides in order to avoid attacks, but even so, the game can be quite punishing. My leg is all kinds of red from me slapping it in frustration, and I'm sure my brother's friends heard me yelling obscenities in the background of their Zoom calls. There are also some fights that honestly just left me thinking, how the heck would I beat that on a higher difficulty? With regards to the battles, of course I need to talk about the music. For me personally, I like the music overall, and I at least liked most of the tracks that I recall, but I do think that not everyone will enjoy every single song. This is because there's a huge variety of music genre-wise. There are songs with rock and metal influences, some with techno and EDM influences, and the genres can vary from folk and, ethnic sounding to futuristic and ambient. Even within individual songs, they might change it up on you quite a bit. There's a ton of great music, but you know it's good when you can hear a song on Spotify and then identify exactly what fight it comes from. The visuals of these fights can be pretty wild and trippy as well, and for a good number of fights they throw some really crazy curveballs at you, whether it be distorting the screen or flipping it upside down. I think this constant change and not knowing what was going to come next helped the game never feel stale or repetitive. I do have a slight complaint though that sometimes the characters would talk to you during these engagements, but I'm sorry, how exactly am I supposed to read what's going on while trying to dodge all these things coming at me? Throughout the journey, they also give you plenty of different side activities or encounters which still in some ways follow the core gameplay. I don't want to spoil these too much, but again, these different sections help the game to feel fresh. As for the adventure RPG elements of the game, I think there's a lot to like here, although it's not perfect. While I did enjoy the story and some characters, I did feel like there were times where things felt slightly forced. I think some more times when some of the characters would have helped to make me feel more of a connection to them, and they could have even considered removing some. Personally, I think the game also would have benefited from having more adventure and story elements, as the bulk of your playtime will really be spent in the battles, and as I mentioned before, it's hard for me to really enjoy the writing if it's delivered to me while trying to go through bullet hell. Despite my criticisms, the game can make you feel all sorts of emotions. There are some genuinely very funny moments, and the colorful assortment of characters makes it easy to get pulled into the world. On the other hand, there are some pretty creepy parts which might scare younger players, and these would genuinely make my skin crawl, especially as you might hear some pretty unnerving sound effects. Careful if you're playing with headphones. Without spoiling anything, I'll also say that the game's quote-unquote correct ending is super satisfying, and many times sent chills down my spine, and I'll even admit, made me feel emotional reflecting over the journey which I had just embarked on. The game is also very meta and will often recognize that you're playing a game, although never in a way that felt detrimental to the game itself. Everhood also dives into some surprisingly mature themes, especially around death, and the game also spouts some philosophical thoughts, although some of these ideas could have been developed more. It's pretty clear not only from the visuals, but also some of the dialogue and things that they say, that the creators may have been influenced by mushrooms. With multiple endings and tons of secrets to discover, I think the game could deliver quite a lot of content. They advertise it as a 5 to 6 hour journey, but it took me around 7 to 8 hours personally. This of course will be dependent on your difficulty and the endings you go for. They also have a custom battle section where you can create and play custom battles, but when I selected it, I only found one available and I wasn't so sure how to find and play others. Overall though, for $10, I think Everhood is a no-brainer pickup, but I can see that it might not be a game for everyone given the quirky nature of it. I can honestly see some Undertale fans not enjoying Everhood as much, but that's natural if you're going to compare it to one of the greatest games ever. I also think difficulty could be a bit of a turn-off for some people. If I had to give a score, I'd probably give Everhood a 3.5 out of 4, and in my opinion, it's a great game which delivers a very unique experience. But hey, that's just me. Feel free to let me know down below what you think. Have you tried Everhood and what'd you think of it? And if you made it this far, I just wanted to say I appreciate you checking out the video. If you enjoyed it, please consider hitting that like or subscribe button as it really helps my channel grow and motivates me to make more and better videos. And as usual, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.